Hi everybody, welcome to Langer at the Mic. I'm Mike Langer. We're going to keep this video short and sweet today because we are just days away from the NHL draft lottery this coming Monday. The Montreal Canadiens, of course, they could stay put at 5th overall, or they could move up to 1st or 2nd overall by virtue of winning one of the lottery spots. They could also maybe move up to 3rd overall, but that is very unlikely. What's more likely though, they could move back to either 6th or 7th overall. I made a video previewing all of their options at each spot right over here. You can check it out. But today's video is going to be about if the Montreal Canadiens move back, if they get jumped by not one, but two teams and move back to the 7th overall spot, should the Habs, or should they not, take defenseman David Reinbacher, the Austrian defenseman playing in the Swiss Professional League. So I'm going to pull up his stats right over here. David Reinbacher, he is a 6'2", 187-pound right-handed defenseman from Austria, playing with EHC Kloten in Switzerland, as I mentioned. He has 46 games, or he played 46 games this year, had 22 points as a teenage defenseman, playing a lot of minutes, which is quite remarkable as a teenager. Also, he has a +7 on the season. Some scouts, again, what's interesting about Reinbacher is he has been all over draft rankings all season long. He started off as a late first round, early second round type of a player, but he has since climbed all the way up to the teens, and some even have him in the top 10. Some scouting reports I've seen or I've read is that he is a mobile all-around defenseman. He has decent speed, but he is not dynamic. He is a decent passer, decent playmaker, and a decent transitional player, but it's still a work in progress. The bottom line right now, Reinbacher, he projects as a not flashy, but very reliable all-around defenseman that can play big minutes at the professional level because he is doing it right now, or he has done it in the Swiss Professional Hockey League. So again, we're going to talk about the case for or against the Montreal Canadiens taking David Reinbacher at 7th overall. Should they be one of the big losers of the lottery and fall back by not one, but by 2 spots? So the case for the Canadiens taking David Reinbacher, well, it's very, very simple. Just look at their depth chart. That's all. Look at their right-handed defenseman depth chart right now. On the left side, and I made a video about this as well, I'll link it right here, but the Canadiens right now have so many more bodies, almost twice, literally twice the amount of bodies under contract right now on the left side of their blue line compared to their right side. Ultimately, the Canadiens are missing that top pairing right-handed defenseman, not only on their roster right now, all due respect to David Savard, but in their system going forward. Mailloux could maybe be that guy, but as of right now, that can't be counted on. But all this to say, David Reinbacher could very much be added to that mix and provide something that is missing. So just on a pure needs standpoint, the Montreal Canadiens could absolutely use a player like David Reinbacher if he becomes what he's supposed to become. And if the Canadiens have him ranked as the 7th best player on their board, then take him. If the Canadiens are drafting 7th overall and David Reinbacher is their 7th best player, you take him. However, with that being said, I am here to tell you that David Reinbacher is very likely not the 7th best player in this upcoming draft. So I'm going to pull up his rankings now over here. And at this stage in the draft process, this is what I like to look at, is pooling all rankings together from different points in the season and seeing where a player has been ranked on different people's boards or in different people's rankings over the course of the season. So as you can see, David Reinbacher has been ranked as high as 8th overall by Daily Faceoff, but most notably 20th overall by Bob McKenzie. Craig Button 26th overall. I think that's where he is at on Craig Button's most recent rankings as well. You have a 35, a 16, a 27, a 19. Are these all credible scout sources? Yes and no. I mean, Craig Button, Bob McKenzie, those are definitely credible. All this to say is that David Reinbacher has been all over the place in terms of draft rankings, and that therefore it's safe to say that he is likely not the 7th best player in this draft. I think Zach Benson, Colby Barlow, Oliver Moore are definitely better prospects than David Reinbacher at this stage. I think they have more upside. Dalibor Dvorsky, Braden Yeager, Edward Sale. I think they're arguably better than Reinbacher as well, and I think they have more upside as well. The Montreal Canadiens cannot afford to pass on a top 10 player or players in a draft class that has a very distinct top 10, especially a lot of talented forwards that rank inside the top 10. The Montreal Canadiens cannot afford to pass on those types of players and opt to reach for a player who fills more of an organizational need. And yeah, Reinbacher could fill that major organizational need that the Canadiens have for a top high-end right-handed defenseman, but you cannot afford to pass on top 10, maybe even top 5 talents in Zach Benson and Oliver Moore. Maybe you could make the case for Reinbacher versus Dalibor Dvorsky, Braden Yeager, and Edward Sale, but I would definitely not take Reinbacher over Zach Benson and Oliver Moore, and even maybe Colby Barlow to some extent. The other issue I have with the Habs drafting Reinbacher is that he's not a Rasmus Dahlin or an Owen Power or a Cale Makar type of prospect at this stage of the pre-draft process. We don't know. He could become that, but as of right now in his draft year, he is not that consensus top 3, top 2, maybe even number 1 overall type of player. Don't get me wrong. When you have a draft class that is made up of Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli and Matvei Michkov, Leo Carlsson, maybe even throw Will Smith into that mix. When you have that as your top 5 in a given draft class, it's hard. You have to be essentially Nicholas Lidstrom as an 18-year-old to compete with that. But the fact that he hasn't been a consensus top 10 player from the very start, it kind of concerns me for Reinbacher's case, at least, that he is not that type of Dahlin or Power or Makar type of prospect. But and even take that even a level further, is he even a David Jiricek or Simon Nemec type of prospect? Like, that to me is an inconsistent process if the Montreal Canadiens were to pass on David Jiricek and Simon Nemec like they did last year and opt for Juraj Slafkovsky because they deemed Juraj Slafkovsky was the best player available. But then this year they turn around to take David Reinbacher because he is the best player available at a position that they need and not on the overall draft board. That to me would be a very inconsistent process. That would be drafting for need and not best player available, which is a flawed way of drafting. But ultimately, if the Montreal Canadiens do fall to 7th overall and do take David Reinbacher, they're the ones that have to be right about the pick, not me, not you, or any other scout or draft expert. It's the Habs. If they make the pick, they're the ones that have to get it right. Now, are you for or against taking David Reinbacher in the top 10? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, be sure to join me for my live stream on lottery night. I'll be going live during the pick announcements at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to see my reactions on lottery night, be sure to join me for that live stream. But as usual, hit like, hit subscribe, give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Langer for both. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time.